As an NFL fan, the draft is either a time of great celebration watching your team rebuild or reload in the right ways, or you're a Saints fan, pure agony and despair the only things on full display. Just vibes and violence for the NFL fans. From the college side of things, all you can really hope for is that the guys who bled for your school's colors get a shout out on the big stage, preferably while fans pelt Roger Goodell with tomatoes just for continuing to breathe. Day one of the draft brought us a parade of 2024's top talents, and Jaylen Walker, taking their shot at the big leagues. Some will actually get to showcase their skills, and others, they'll vanish into the Bermuda Triangle known as the Cleveland Browns, because the Factory of Sadness demands fresh sacrifices to keep the fires burning. Sure, you probably already suffered through 1,000 videos of NFL fans pretending they're draft analysts, breaking down Jacksonville's contractual obligation to trade in the first round. Either that, or someone is celebrating because they weren't dumb enough to take Shedeur Sanders. But as you know me, I don't go for the pros. I'm a college football sicko through and through, as my history would suggest, and I'm about to unload some intriguing takes on about how these teams handled their picks. I'm sure everyone will agree. Look at how well my last video was received. So strap in, because this is going to suck. Check out the Squidtard merch store, whee!
With the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Cameron Ward, quarterback, Miami.
In a class predominantly run by running backs for the first time in forever, there weren't many quarterbacks on the board that were going to make a day one impact. That's why the Titans actually managed to do something resembling smart by taking Cam Ward, one of the only legit starting quarterback prospects in the cycle. Under the pocket, Ward led one of the top offenses in the country. He had the physique and pocket awareness that'll get it done at the pro level as long as the offensive line gives him a nanosecond to throw the football. He's aggressive and not afraid to throw downfield over what's going to be another Dallas defensive back. He's going to have different receivers to throw to, and I'm sure that'll change some things. Okay, never mind. Nonetheless, he's proof that stars only matter so much, as he was a 0-star recruit in the same class as 5-star DJ Ukulele. That's a scary thought. Not because DJ is not living up to 5-star talent level, but because it requires giving credit to Mario Cristobal for development he most certainly didn't do. I'm still gonna grill Cam Ward for quitting halfway through the Pop-Tart Bowl because that's a bowl that matters to Miami fans, who haven't seen an ACC title since, well, forever. There's arguments about Ward getting the starting position at the Titans, but I'd rather take the Tennessee Vols quarterback room over there than what you have there. You wouldn't know any of these things unless you are on the NFL Network because ESPN was busy doing everything they could to prop up Shedeur Sanders. Mel Kiper's still sobbing somewhere in the distance, probably clutching a mock draft with him in the top 5. But all 5 spots. Regardless, I wish the best for Ward. Maybe he's the key that'll be able to carry the Titans to relevance. Right. I'm as sure as that as I am Carson Beck being a great successor for his college.
And with the second pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Travis Hunter, wide receiver, defensive back from Colorado.
Like clockwork, the Jaguars did what they always do during the draft. They made a trade. This time, however, they actually traded up instead of pulling their usual routine of making bad decisions. And shocker of all shockers, they used the pick on Travis Hunter, which at the very least wasn't a stupid move. Even if you're not sold on his defensive prowess, Hunter's still one of the best receivers Colorado's dragged onto a football field in years. He's a rare kind of athletic freak, the kind you take even if you're not entirely sure what position he's going to play, just to make sure some other team doesn't get him. If NFL scouts didn't think he was worth it, he wouldn't have gone this high. Period. Yeah, I've heard about the whining about stat padding with the Buffs, but my brain's slightly larger than a Pikmin's, so I'm capable of watching film and seeing actual talent beyond the box score. You know, unlike whatever happened with Shedeur Sanders and his free fall from ESPN poster boy to LinkedIn legend. Sure, it's a gamble depending on how Jacksonville plans to use him, but when you've got a weapon like this and a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, missing the playoffs starts looking less like bad luck and more like a personal choice. Travis Hunter's either going to be the next franchise icon or wearing a practice squad bib by December. No in between. Just one request, please. Leave your girlfriend in Boulder. That kind of clown show belongs exclusively in Alabama, where the cuck chair has permanent seating.
I don't know what
that
that
is.
is.
Pick
Here's the commissioner.
in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Abdul Carter, defensive end, Penn State.
Abdul Carter's move from linebacker to edge rusher might be the best career decision since Notre Dame sent Burger King down to LSU. In one season, the guy morphed into a one-man demolition unit. He's built like a neutron star and moves like he's got a rocket strapped to his back. Faster than most defensive linemen, and pretty much every offensive lineman who tries to slow him down with hopes and prayers. Unless you're Oregon. The way he adapted to the position so fast makes it look like he was born for it. Which, of course, only makes it more frustrating that James Franklin continues to chain himself to the blandest, most anus-clenching conservative offense known to mankind. Carter could have dragged that team to the promised land if Franklin hadn't been calling plays like he was scared of wide receivers. But no, they only unleash chaos when it's either wildly uncalled for or it's far too late. Just ask Drew Allar for more details. But back to reality. Carter joining the Giants' defensive front immediately cranks their pass rush from subpar to death for all. He's giving early Micah Parsons energy with the drop of Lawrence Taylor, assuming the Giants can figure out how to use him properly, which is a massive assumption. If they manage it, we'll see him eat up quarterbacks the way he used to feast on poor Big Ten West linemen. The problem? A, the Giants don't get to play the Big Ten West teams and instead play the Big Ten East of the NFL. And B, the Giants' offense is currently powered by sadness. Too bad they didn't have 2 first-round picks, then maybe they would have drafted someone to score actual points.
With the 4th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Will Campbell, tackle, LSU.
100 edge rushers versus 1 gorilla. And here's your gorilla, Will Campbell, a walking slab of meat, muscle, and medieval loyalty. A man so committed to protecting his quarterback, he might actually die trying. Given the talent skill on the board, Jerod Mayo either just threw the next season, or the Patriots finally realized that maybe, just maybe, protecting Drake May before he gets grinded into dust is kind of important. If you're in the market for a human shield, there weren't many better picks this year than Campbell. Now granted, I don't know if he'll bring the same feral energy to the NFL trenches, since this time around he's not dating the sister of the quarterback he's protecting. Yes, he really dated Garrett Nussmeier's sister, and still is in fact. But even without the "please don't let my girlfriend cry" motivation, Patriots fans can rest easy knowing their O-line won't collapse like a folding chair this season. The dude's such a physical presence he's already claimed a body in practice. Mike Vrabel of all people. That alone should give him a bonus on the contract. And somewhere, you can still hear South Carolina fans weeping about him holding as per the norm of the program.
With the 5th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Mason Graham, defensive tackle, Michigan.
There's a full-on laundry list of things the Cleveland Browns need. If they had it their way, they'd probably draft 1 player per position, plus a punter and a spiritual advisor. But one thing they desperately, painfully need is a defensive line that isn't held together by hope, duct tape, and whatever's left of Myles Garrett's patience. Enter Mason Graham, Cleveland's latest attempt at plugging the crater-sized holes in their defensive front. It's not the sexy headline-grabbing pick fans are dreaming of, but it is the kind of pick that stops your defense from getting steamrolled every week. Graham's no stranger to owning real estate in Ohio, having spent his college years routinely haunting the nightmares of Buckeye fans. He was an absolute menace during Michigan's title run, right behind Connor Stallions, of course. On the field, though, he straight up ruined opposing run games and dragged linemen like they owed him money. Sure, some Cleveland fans are mad, which is to say Ohio State fans are mad, but let's be honest, adding mass in the trenches isn't just smart, it's necessary. And outside of Desmond Watson, there's not a whole lot more mass you can cram into one body. At least the defensive side of the ball is starting to make sense. Can't say the same for their quarterback room, which now includes 2 new draft picks and still no clear plan. It's like they're collecting quarterbacks the way UGA collects DUIs.
With the 6th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Ashton Genty, running back, Boise State.
In typical Browns fashion, they decided a running back wasn't worth their time. So naturally, Vegas stepped in and did something intelligent for once. They took Genty ball. In a class overflowing with quality running backs, it's no shock the Raiders were the first to smash the draft button and grab the guy who played like death incarnate every Saturday. Genty ball wasn't a Heisman winner, but he was second only to ESPN's favorite source of revenue, Travis Hunter. And yes, he played in a group of 5 conference, but if that's your excuse to underrate him, congratulations, you're on the smooth brain status. The NFL clearly isn't that dense. If he waited 1 more year, he'd be a Power 5 darling with hardware to match. But hey, awards are irrelevant when you're physically bulldozing entire defenses. Genty ball's got the vision, speed, and sheer violence to turn linebackers into chalk outlines. No, he can't throw the ball like Cam Skibbity, but his wall of death build makes up for it. You can take that to the bank the same way you can guarantee a Burger King jingle would interrupt your piece within the next 5 minutes. All that aside, Ashton Genty's got everything you want in a starting NFL back. Here's hoping he runs over defenders in the pros the same way he did in college, and earns himself a rookie season highlight worth spamming. Best of luck to you.
With the 7th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Arman Meu, Missouri.
What a plot twist this is, huh? Luther Burden was not the first Mizzou player off the board. The NFL let him marinate until round 2 because the New York Jets decided they needed beef. They need just about everything else too, but like Cleveland, they can't draft an entire roster in one weekend, no matter how badly they need to. Enter Mizzou's human bulldozer, one of the most freakishly athletic linemen in the entire draft. The combine numbers didn't lie. Dude moves like a tight end, blocks like a wrecking ball, and has the awareness of someone who's been doing this since kindergarten. He basically anchored one of the best offensive lines in the country, and just to sprinkle in some absurdity, allowed 0 sacks and 411 pass blocking snaps. That's the type of stat you hear at EA College Football 25. He protected his quarterback like it was the last hot wing on earth. No wonder Eli Drinkwitz probably did a touchdown celebration and tried to hug the nearest human being like he just hit the Powerball. Need more proof? Rewatch the 2023 Arkansas game, where this man willingly engaged in hand-to-hand combat with an entire defensive front and walked away like it was another Tuesday. He basically was a steel beam with cleats. But as we all know, greatness has a price, and his is being shipped off to the New York Jets, also known as the Rutgers Scarlet Knights of professional football. Either the Jets will self-destruct again in hilarious fashion, or we'll witness the heat death of the universe before they sniff relevance.
With the 8th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Tedaroa McMillan, wide receiver, Arizona.
Well, this is embarrassing. I've been pronouncing his name wrong the entire season. Grammar police, come book me now. Nonetheless, McMillan was quite literally the offense for Arizona, so much so that nobody remembers they had any other wide receivers. I don't even think the coaching staff remembered. Despite spearheading a terrible Wildcats team for the first year of the Big 12, McMillan was a guy literally nobody could cover or stop. 300 yards receiving for him was less of a gratifying stat and more of the usual Saturday night. Or noon because Arizona was too bad for the night slate. So despite Cam Skibbity getting the gold at the end of the rainbow, McMillan seemed to be the real winner because he got drafted first. Makes sense though, without his presence for them, Brent Brennan is probably serving cheese curds at Culver's right now. Man, I could really go for some cheese curds. Anyway, McMillan will serve well for the Panthers and Bryce Young, an offense of which is probably outdone by Iowa.
With the 9th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Kelvin Banks Jr., tackle, Texas.
Being a fan of the Saints is a tough go for anyone, even with my inconsistent viewing of the NFL. I find myself rooting for New Orleans, but they do me like Tennessee does for college and leaves me in the offseason with disappointment. This go-round, they were left with only 2 options at the start: get someone to replace Spencer Rattler, or find someone to protect Spencer Rattler. They chose to go with the latter in Kelvin Banks Jr. This was the next best choice after losing on Membo. Not to say he isn't good though, as he is the strongest wall of defense against the onslaught of SEC defensive linemen. Except for Georgia's. Nonetheless, his dominance in the other games presented him as an elite offensive lineman. He blocked for Quinn Ewers well enough to get them in the first place spot in the SEC. Before Georgia. Despite that though, his consistent blocking earned him the Outland Trophy. And the Lombardi. No, not that Lombardi, the college one. The Saints aren't getting that one. Yet. Banks' baby throwing up as soon as the pick was made was proof what he's in for. The only thing left to say is that it's a good thing he left Texas when he did. Offensive linemen will be useless when Stark sends Arch Manning out to run the ball 900 times a game.
So with the 10th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Colston Lovelin, tight end, Michigan.
Wow. A tight end being drafted this early. Think about where he would have been if Michigan had an actual quarterback last year. Similarly to the running backs, the tight end spot has been a hot spot for the NFL draft this season with all the different picks to choose from. He's not a flashy or quick guy on the field, but his reliance with his hands will make up for it. And as you'll soon find out, this isn't the first or last Michigan guy to take the spotlight as the Wolverines dominated this draft. When it comes to picking a tight end for a new weapon for Caleb Williams, it's hard to go wrong with Lovelin. Currently, the Bears' wide receiver core is about as valuable as the Alpa core in the trash can. So getting a guy capable of using his hands for more than giving the middle finger to Green Bay is something I'm sure that pleases most Bears fans. Even if there's nobody telling him the other team's plays from the sideline, Loveland is still set to have a successful career if the Bears manage him on a bare minimum subpar level.
With the 11th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Maxwell Williams, defensive end, Georgia.
The first Mouseketeer from the clubhouse has seen the 2025 draft. No surprise since Georgia is a melting pot for elite defensive linemen. Since his commitment, he's been an absolute nightmare for opposing offensive lines. Every time the ball was snapped, he'd run after the quarterback like he was on fire and somebody like Quinn Ewers was the water bucket. While he was an everlasting war against the injury bug for most of this time, this doesn't take away from the sheer power and force he presents on the field when he's healthy. I hate the University of Georgia more than any other team, but it's an undeniable fact that Kirby Smart knows how to develop elite defensive prospects. I'll tell you that now before SEC Network smashes that fact into your face. He'll serve as the de facto sidekick for Nick Bosa and basically turn the 49ers D-line into the NFL version of Georgia's D-line. This will be brought up again when it's time for the 49ers to choke on the offensive side of the ball again like they always do. Kyle Shanahan's clutch bone is equal to James Franklin's. Can somebody check the driving laws in San Francisco?
With the 12th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Booker, guard, Alabama.
Following the retirement of Zach Martin, the Cowboys needed a new man on the line to block for whichever poor soul will be the next meme in 2025. Their eyes were fixated on Alabama's Tyler Booker. While there were linemen taken ahead which are likely better, Booker's got the athleticism of a first-round lineman all the same. Anyone who starts their college career at IMG Academy is a guy you want to keep your eyes on. His run-blocking powers were a major reason as to why Jalen Milroe wasn't benched last year. What's he gonna do? Throw? Nah, not for Milroe. Nonetheless, Booker's 3 seasons with the Tide all but confirmed his spot in the draft. The recognition as a first-team All-American last year sealed his spot in the top 32. Having the size of a literal planet, it's going to be hard to move this guy. He's already got his odds locked on Jalen Carter as his first victim. Take from that what you will.
With the 13th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan.
Our next choice from the Wolverine hotspot is Miami's pick of Kenneth Grant. His status on defensive lineman might just be a placeholder, as his pure speed could set him up for any position on the field. The fact he's 339 pounds and moves with mismatched athleticism is basically as close as you can get to drafting a 2025 Ram 1500. For most, blocking is futile against a force like that. Jim Harbaugh said it so himself. He called him a gift from the football gods. No, that's actually your natty, but close enough, I suppose. If you have a defensive lineman with enough speed to chase down Keytron Allen in a foot race, his mere presence on the field will be enough to make guys like Caleb Williams poo-poo himself from aura alone. If utilized correctly, this guy could become one of the greatest linemen to ever see the NFL. But being with the Dolphins, the same franchise that has strength and conditioning for Tua equal to weakness and deconditioning, it's pretty hard to convince me that we'll see the same level of productivity off the spot. But there's always trades.
With the 14th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State.
I went over to my sink and turned the water on, and get this, the water is indeed wet. This is the least shocking pick here. The Colts desperately needed a force that can block and catch, and this is about the best you could have gotten. He's a strong, physical guy who's built for whatever situation he finds himself in. Being a part of the Colts is as subpar of a situation as you can get yourself into. Having a guy like Warren revolutionizes the offense though, as they can do anything they want with him. He's as close as you can get to the Doomslayer. He doesn't think about how he's gonna fuck shit up, he just fucks shit up. I mean, look at what he did with Penn State. He was such a weapon there that they forgot they had a position called wide receivers. They serviced empty space more than they did an actual spot on the field. Anthony Richardson's passing completion numbers will spike up with a guy like Warren coming to play for him. The question now becomes, how is James Franklin going to move the football with his only piece of offense gone? Don't tell me you're going to have Drew Allar run. Good luck with that.
With the 15th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Jaylen Walker, defensive end, Georgia.
Forgetting my hatred for Georgia for a moment, the trends have been broken. 2 of them, in fact. Not only have the Falcons managed to use enough IQ points to draft someone they need, but they finally drafted a player from the best revenue generator in the state. Jaylen Walker provides everything Kenneth Grant did with half the weight on him. He provides a variety of advantages for the Falcons and their defense, the most important of which is the pass rush, or the Falcons equivalent, giving the quarterback 10 years and a drive-through wait time to throw the football. It's USC all over again. Thankfully for them, this pick plays a part in changing that. With the heat-seeking ability of a Tomahawk missile, it's hard to mess this up management-wise. If trained right, he could become as lethal on the defensive front as Abdul Carter, while also being able to play in coverage. Again, Kirby has thrown the ball in the air above the basket. It all depends on if the Falcons can finish it with a dunk. As the future will tell you, the Red and Black Birdies felt the need to further reinforce this dunk with the pick you'll see later.
With the 16th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Walter Nolan, defensive tackle, Mississippi.
This isn't saying much as this applies to the entirety of the 2022 class, but leaving Texas A&M has helped Walter Nolan's draft stock massively. Last season, he broke out with an abundance of tackles and sacks, and claimed the title for both All-SEC and All-American. He played a key factor in the Rebs' wins over Georgia and South Carolina, and pretty much erased offensive lines from existence with his play on the field. Mixing him in with veterans on the defensive front could make the Cardinals' defense jump to levels unforeseen for a long time. This is reinforced by their pick of Will Johnson in later rounds. How he managed to fall right into their hands is a complete unknown. Point is, when Nolan's surge from last season, continued success will be huge for both the Cardinals and the Rebels, as Lane Kiffin is still trying to figure out what rule he can bend now that fake injuries have been outlawed. You got out of that at the right time, it seems.
With the 17th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Shamar Stewart, defensive end, Texas A&M.
So who gets credit for this one? Mike Elko or Jimbo Fisher? One thing's for sure regardless, this is a case of talent detection from the practice reels and not from the games. Shamar Stewart had some decent performances here and there, but his stats on the field were insignificant compared to other players in the draft, including his own position. He was one of the few 5-stars that stuck around during the 2022 exodus and what came afterwards. While his play on the field was still a huge help for Texas A&M, he was likely held back due to coaching changes. Good work, Jimbo. You and Florida State would really make a great combo. Most of the draft stock for Stewart came from the NFL Combine, where he had one of the best overall performances of any of the players participating. What the Bengals are banking on is that their coaching staff can unleash this talent to the fullest. If they can do the Dan Mullen development move for their defensive line, they can go very far in the NFL this upcoming season. Either that, or Joe Burrow gets hurt again and then everything falls apart.
With the 18th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Gray Zable, guard, North Dakota State.
Talent acquisition goes far beyond the high-end talent department. This guy would have gotten much more publicity if his team finished a job against Colorado, but winning some and losing some is the way of the game, and this guy isn't used to losing a whole lot. This man-made Iron Curtain has maintained one of the highest lineman grades in the FCS. He blocked at a level only seen with the highest tier teams of the season. This would normally bring him to a program like Alabama, but Zable had a thing not many hold on to: loyalty. He was thoroughly committed to the Bison. It's a rare treat, and hopefully one day the FBS will catch on. Nico. This led to a well-deserved historic night for the Meatball, as he became the highest drafted lineman from the FCS. The Seahawks, like many others, needed someone to block for their main man. This pick could either be a steal or reinforce the narrative that FCS is a meaningless division of football, just as meaningless as the New York Jets.
With the 19th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Amecha Ibuka, wide receiver, Ohio State.
A story as old as time itself. Ohio State throws out another wide receiver as a first-round draft pick. They produce them like it's part of a factory scheme, and the draft agents eat him up like Tic Tacs. For 4 years, this man has been making the lives of Big Ten defensive coordinators a living hell. He wasn't flashy and cool like Jeremiah Smith, but he got the job done, and got it done efficiently. Once defenses started triple-teaming Jeremiah Smith, he took it upon himself to do the Penn State thing and take all the receptions for himself. This accumulated in Ibuka becoming Ohio State's all-time leader in receptions. For anyone, it would be hard to miss on a prospect like that. But in the case of Tampa Bay, I'm not really sure it was the right move. Wide receiver gain doesn't really strike me as what the Bucs need. They've got guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, but I guess anything to reload the roster further. Stay tuned for 2027 when Jeremiah Smith joins them in Tampa Bay.
All right, with the 20th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Jaden Barron, DB, Texas.
This really puts into perspective just how loaded the Texas defense has been the last few years. A jack-of-all-trades level defensive back for Denver seemed to be the right move in looking for that position. What Jaden Barron succeeds at most is his performance on the line. Somehow, he's probably better at tackling than he is in coverage, and that's really saying something. His performance exclusively last year granted him the honors of Jim Thorpe's trophy, as I'm sure we'll hear has SEC bias attached to it. Anyone with the chromosome can see that this guy is the real deal. He'll go down in history as one of the main contributors to Texas actually being back this time. And as for what awaits in Denver, he'll fit right in with what will likely be a lockdown defensive backfield pending a cinder-level collapse. I'm not sure why the Broncos passed up on a running back. Hopefully they don't regret that later.
With the 21st pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, Oregon.
With bated breath, we all awaited for this one. Most of us thought that if nobody else was going to take Shedeur in the first round, Pittsburgh's incompetent organization would bite the lure. However, in what was likely social media screaming at them to not do it, they caved to the narrative and instead went with Derek Harmon. Through this move, they avoid football Armageddon whilst claiming a monstrous defensive tackle for the added bonus. As many of our other first-round picks, Harmon peaked in his last year of college under a new team. Mel Tucker was too busy doing something I don't think YouTube would appreciate, so he moved on to the Oregon Ducks. While national titles are as foreign as a word to these people as their state fruit, the Ducks are familiar with producing NFL-level talent. With the addition of him on the roster, Oregon's defense became a lethal force in the Big Ten. However, what I'm sure Pittsburgh really desired was his body build. The man was taller and stronger than you, and he knew it. A tackle from him wouldn't just hurt you, it would erase you from this plane of existence. A tackle from him wouldn't just hurt you, it would erase you from this plane of existence. A fate I'm all too sure the NFL will find out soon.
With the 22nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Omarean Hampton, running back, North Carolina.
Because Denver was locked in on a defensive back, Omarean Hampton fell right into the arms of the Chargers. Because of Mac Brown being older than the planet we live on, plus Jeff Collins' brain being the size of a fruit fly, Hampton's talents weren't shown on the national screen. While he was in the CW purgatory, he led the Tar Heels with a massive run game by shoving every lineman he played into a locker. Linemen trying to keep him in front of them found themselves trying to tackle a bulldozer more often than not. If he makes it through you, it's pretty much GG's at that point. What's most scary about this for everyone else is not the simple fact that Chargers pick up an absolute unit, but that of which he is going to be under the tenure of Jim Harbaugh. What are we doing here? Hampton will serve as a way to remind the poor UNC fans of the good times on offense, before they came out on the field for defense. You're lucky you got out of UNC when you did. Bill Belichick would be yelling at you and ordering you around if his girlfriend let him. With the 23rd pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers, an NFL franchise, multiple-time Super Bowl champions, with an athletic director who talks too much, and a lot of cheese, and we once had Aaron Rodgers, but he sucks now, but your pick by the Green Bay Packers is going to be someone you'll like on the roster, because he's not Aaron Rodgers, and we're going to draft this guy, and you'll like him, but you probably won't since you're a Green Bay fan and hate everything. Do we mention that we won a Super Bowl back when Arkansas Razorback football mattered? Whopper, 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 whopper.
Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Texas.
Incredibly dragged introduction aside, Green Bay went through with the thought from many draft agents and picked up Matthew Golden. Known as the only guy Sark could rely on to consistently move the football, Golden has all the assets and more you could have asked for. He's the whole reason why they weren't blown out by Georgia or Ohio State, plus the added bonus of ruining Arizona State's hopes and dreams. The Packers wanted some flash on their side, and they're gonna get it. Golden was the true playmaker for the Longhorns, especially in the postseason. His main asset is the deep threat, but he can fit right into the seams as well. You can ask Georgia all about it. In many cases though, if the deep threat is locked down, then his production on the field is like my main YouTube channel, in limbo. The success of Golden in the Pro League all depends on the coaching staff's ability to get him open down the field. Is Green Bay back, folks?
With the 24th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Donovan Jackson, guard, Ohio State.
The best possible countermeasure against Abdul Carter, a man who Donovan Jackson pancaked. Loyal to the Nuts for the entirety of his career, he's another well-developed Ohio State lineman who should perform well on the big stage. I say should because it's the Vikings. Despite that, Jackson's abilities at guard and tackle, due to the injuries on the team, got him rights to All-American status. As proven through the injury bug, he's able to play multiple spots on the line at the pro level. He's also a distinguished scholar, which makes him automatically smarter than 80% of Ohio State's fan base. He's a natural leader and cares about his team above himself. I know that's a standard among guys who are literally paid to defend the other guys on their team, but he's a natural at it. Not sure if it's a troll job, but it just so happens the guy he'll be protecting is none other than JJ McCarthy. Just make sure you beat Detroit. You don't want to lose to Michigan for the 5th time in a row. What's crazy is that there's another Ohio State offensive lineman on the board just as good as the one they just drafted. There's the perks of winning the Natty, I guess.
With the 25th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Jackson Dart, quarterback, Mississippi.
To put into perspective just how low grade this quarterback class was, the second best quarterback of the class just so happens to be Jackson Dart. This includes Shedeur Sanders. Dart and Ward were the only two guys worthy of the first round. Throughout his time under Ole Miss, specifically last season, Dart put up video game numbers on the field and led the Rebels to some of their best seasons to date. If you forget they gave Kentucky their only conference win of the season, he had a remarkable season last year. When Kiffin wasn't telling him to flop, he was leading his team past decent competition and had stats that showed he wasn't all talk. You can chalk this up to him having great receivers, or you can call it Dart's own abilities, but he still had a hell of a year. Now he's off to the New York Giants, where we'll probably find out real quick who will win the dick measuring contest between him, Russell Let's Ride Wilson, and Jameis Crableg Winston. If he maintains the consistency he had with the Rebs, it's very possible he gets the starting spot off the bat. Wait, what the hell happened to Daniel Jones?
With the 26th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select James Pierce Jr., defensive end, Tennessee.
Once considered a first overall pick, I'm not surprised he fell down the list as hard as he did. There were bigger needs for other teams, plus his stats in 2024 were lesser than the previous. Whatever the reasons, Atlanta truthfully addressed the edge position and got an absolute unit here. Pierce was an absolute tank at Tennessee, a true destroyer of offensive lines. He was such a destructive force that double teaming him every play was the standard in order to slow down Tennessee's defensive line. Even then, it wasn't a guarantee that he wouldn't just blast through both and eviscerate the quarterback from existence. He's the reason Tennessee fans had playoff level expectations going into last season, which they somehow lived up to because of Pierce. Unfortunately, this culminated in the 7,000 bubble screens against Ohio State that even his destruction couldn't overcome. He unfortunately cannot score unless it's Iowa he's playing against. Nonetheless, combining his prowess on the field with Jaylen Walker will set up the Falcons as a legitimate force in the NFL next season. Their division needs it. The NFC South makes the tank conference look respectable in hindsight.
With the 27th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Malachi Starks, defensive back, Georgia.
I'll reiterate this. No matter how much I hate the Dogs, they make for some elite defensive prospects for the pros. In one of the few cases of 5 stars actually living up to their promised status, Malachi Starks walked into Athens and immediately caused the heat death of the universe. Being consistently one of the best safeties in the country, his presence alone kept Georgia's secondary as one of the highest ranked for the past 3 years. Not only did he have a significantly high football IQ, he was able to make absolutely monstrous plays on the field. Bo Nix and Cade Klubnik are still having nightmares about the monstrosities this man committed to their passing games. He's a physical and mental elite fit for the Ravens. He's not afraid to put someone on their ass or step back into coverage. He's a fit for any given situation he's in, including the Mickey Mouse Clubhouses that's where he's resided for the past 3 years. Nonetheless, as long as he avoids Jalen Milroe, Starks has a decent career awaiting him in Baltimore.
With the 28th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Tyreek Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State.
First, a franchise from the state of Ohio drafts a Michigan player, and now a franchise from the state of Michigan drafts an Ohio State player. One thing draft agents certainly don't care to understand is the symbolism of the game. That aside, Williams will make a valuable addition to the Lions' defensive line. Offensive lines to him are nothing more than a mini traffic cone located on the interstate. He'll just bulldoze through it and nobody can or will do a damn thing about it. He wasn't even in it for the money. He's been with Ohio State long before they decided to spend $20 million on a trophy. I mean, just look at how happy his cat is. Pure happiness personified. The last thing you want to do is get on the mean side of a cat dad. It'd be like throwing a stone at Godzilla. All I can say for the unfortunate souls in the AFC, just be ready for his atomic breath.
With the 29th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Josh Conerly Jr.
Here we go.
Tackle, Oregon.
With an O-line equal to a bunch of ghosts, the Commanders really needed some sort of soul able to protect Jaden Daniels when he's dropping back to throw. It's hard to execute that goal any better than this play does. He's had as many highlight-worthy blocks as the Ducks have uniform combinations. Being a fast and meaty lineman up front, he automatically brings more to the table than any lineman Washington currently has on their roster. In the 2024 season, he allowed only 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and 6 hurries over 521 pass blocking snaps. For what the Commanders have been looking for, these stats will do more than suffice. They allowed 50 sacks, so there you go. His blocking up front was able to propel the Ducks to the playoffs as the first ever 12-team playoff 1 seed. But we all know how that one ended. The only thing worse than spending $20 million on a trophy is spending more than that for a bag of chips. Thankfully for Connerly, Ohio State going Super Saiyan isn't his problem anymore. At least, not in whole. With a little more physical training, this guy is going to go places.
With the 30th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Maxwell Harrison. Let's go!
It is indeed true. You wouldn't believe it since it's as rare for them as a sober Kentucky fan, but the Wildcats actually have talent on their football team. So far, it's their biggest legacy in the sport in what's felt like a decade. At this point, this is more of a contribution to the SEC overall than it is anything to favor Kentucky. I mean, what do you think they'll do? Recruit? No. Anyway, Harrison is actually one of the best members of the secondary that you could have picked up. Being at war with the injury bug, it was hard to detect his talents on the field, but because Kentucky and talent are two polar opposites, the moment he returned was like putting a Hershey kiss on top of a pile of dog shit. He managed to maintain all SEC status, which pushed him to the offseason as one of the best prospects on the board. Buffalo could use the extra productivity on the secondary, and I trust their coaching staff a little more than I do Mark Stoops and his shenanigans. But guys, their 15th senior citizen transfer quarterback will be the one to bring Kentucky to the promised land.
With the 31st pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jiod Campbell, linebacker, Alabama.
If the NFL considered Alabama's strength of schedule, I'm sure Jiod Campbell would be taken top 5 at bare minimum. Now that we've gone through that running gag, Campbell was built for success. Coming out of IMG Academy, more known as the NFL Factory, his time at Alabama was where he continued his hype train as a linebacker. Everyone he played against was tackled at least once by this guy. Considering his explosiveness and agility as a linebacker, he is an asset that anyone could use. However, he's off to the richest franchise in the current year. In his own words, the rich just got richer. Expect for Alabama fans to use this as an excuse to prop up Kalen DeBoer's ability to develop talent. As if Nick Saban didn't have anything to do with that. At least in one thing, Alabama made it in and didn't get cucked by ESPN or whatever excuse they want to come up with.
With the 32nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Josh Simmons, tackle, Ohio State.
Once again, another contributor to the $20 million trophy gets picked up by the Kansas City Chiefs. After what the Eagles did to Patrick Mahomes, I'd also want to spend my first pick on putting some meat on the offensive line. Spending the last 2 years at Ohio State, he brought along significant blocking up front. He didn't allow a single sack on the field up until the injury bug ruined everything. Though he was out for the remainder of the year after the Oregon game, the Buckeyes had like 7 more clones of him, so it all worked out for the best regardless. While the stock did fall briefly due to the injury bug and being perennial suspect of ref ball interference, he had a lot to offer and the Chiefs administration saw that. If Simmons can return to full health and refine his technique, he has the potential to become a cornerstone of the Chiefs' offensive line. And as we all know, he won't have ref ball to worry about. He'll be wearing a different jersey this go-around, but we all know most Ohio State fans can't tell the difference. There you have it. That's your first round of draft picks in my video celebrating their accomplishments through college by having more excuses to shit on their programs as they always do. Before we end the video, I wanted to say a very special thank you to my very loyal subscribers, who have brought me to the legendary number of 10,000. I never thought we'd make it this far, and I have plenty of things for you guys in the future to celebrate this momentous occasion. Finals have been kicking my ass, which brings me to my apology for the lack of uploads. But I've got a lot of great stuff coming for you guys in the future, so while you wait for it, just stay tuned. And as always, power to Tardaria!